Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Holy Shiftballs podcast. I'm Sharon.
And I am Bethany. And you know what, Sharon?
What?
I got a really quick question. You
Okay.
ready? Have you ever had a moment where something happened that you couldn't explain? Like, maybe you knew who was calling before the phone rang. Or, have you ever had a thought about somebody and then they text? Or you walk into a room and instantly you can feel something has shifted. Something's not right.
Oh, that energy sometimes. And I think most of us have had experiences like that. The question is, Bethany, now I have a question for you. And that question is, do we dismiss them or are they trying to tell us something?
Yeah. So, you know what, Sharon? Today we're stepping into one of the most fascinating conversations
Mhm.
I feel that we've had on the Holy Shiftball podcast. We're talking about consciousness, intuition, and our multidimensional nature. And what's possible when we begin to develop what our guest says is called our light body.
Yes, and we are so lucky today to have Jerome Martin III on our show. He's an ET contactee, a metaphysical practitioner, and a light body development coach dedicated to helping people expand their
Yes.
consciousness and unlock their multidimensional power. He's the founder of the Light Body Bootcamp, where he teaches practical tools for strengthening the light body, intuitive abilities, and deepening the connection with
Yes.
the higher self while accelerating spiritual growth. And
Mm.
Bethany and I have experienced firsthand, and it brought us new awarenesses. And we are beyond grateful for this conversation today. Welcome to the Holy Shiftballs podcast, Jerome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, we are beyond excited for. I think I can speak for Sharon. I mean, what we were a we you gifted us a 15 to 20-minute transformation about your work and what it is that you're bringing onto planet right now. Can you help for the listener that's maybe this is the first time they've heard of multidimension light body? Can you kind of explain a little bit what that is?
Absolutely. So, what the light body is a version of us that exists beyond time and space that is non-physical, right? So, when people think of their body, they think of this meat suit that we occupy, and everyone thinks that the body has a soul, but really it's the opposite. The soul has a body, and the soul actually occupies a bunch of bodies simultaneously, and that's a much bigger topic than we can talk about right now. But so, what the light body is think of it as a vehicle, right? So a vehicle like a car or a ship that is made of light and energy fractals that exists around us. It's a geometric shape that's known as a star tetrahedron. And this light body is a part of ourselves, right? It's connected to us. It's not separate. It's part of our genetics and of our energy field. It's electromagnetic. This light body is a station of consciousness that we can take this vehicle. You can take a fractal of your consciousness, right, a part of yourself, and station this fractal inside of this light body, and then this light body has the ability to move and journey into the higher realms of consciousness, into these higher dimensional realms, into the inner realms. And when this happens, people are like, well, why do you want to go there? Why would anybody be seeking that? Well, this is where higher dimensional, extra dimensional beings occupy these space. I'm talking about angels, ascended masters, ETs of the light. There's different energetic constructs. Some people know about things called the Akashic records, the Hall of Records, or these different places that they would like to go and visit. And when you go there, in this fractal of yourself, in this energy vehicle, you can then come in contact with these higher dimensional beings, right? And why would we want to do that? Well, when you do that and you come into harmonic resonance with them, there is a data transfer that happens. Think of it like one computer downloading information files to another. When they do that, they enrich you, right? They teach you, they share purpose. They will oftentimes give you abilities, and those you can think of it like computers, where it's like one computer downloading a file into another, and then this light body vehicle, when you come back with it into your physical body, those new programs update your operating system. So oftentimes people come back with new abilities, heightened sense of intuition, all the information that you receive, it comes back and it stays with you. And so when for me, this happened where I had ET contact, and then this ET contact enriched my life. It developed all the psychic abilities that I am able to use and help others develop now.
Okay, so Sharon, has this activated 19,000 questions for you too? It's just okay, hold on.
And I'd like to.
Did you just wake up one day and be like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to connect with ET contact. Walk us through what that is. Okay, you're walking down, the beach one day. How did all of this come into your life, into your awareness?
So this happened in 2017. Well, let me preface a little bit. I was a martial artist my whole life, and so I trained Hapkido, and Hapkido is a Korean martial art, which is the way of neutralizing energy. So we use there's a bunch of techniques for self-defense, but we learn how to use the body's chi energy to deliver the techniques. And so with that, when you're learning how to manipulate energy for destruction, then on the flip side, you also learn how to use the energy for healing. And so I got into modalities like Reiki. Right. So I started off with Reiki. That was my first real energetic experiences, Reiki. And then from there, I discovered something called the Merkaba, which is and once again, this is the one that I discovered isn't the one that I teach. I discovered the fallen mechanics, but you also have to fall before you pick yourself back up, I guess.
Exactly.
So I learned this Merkaba technique, and I started doing this technique, and then I started feeling this whoosh of energy around myself. And so that happened for some time. Put it down because I didn't understand the whoosh, and so I moved on with my life. And so I was when this all happened to me, I was a construction worker, and I was a superintendent for an excavating company, which means we dug big holes, right? Mass excavation in the big excavation machines. And so I was building landfills for our public services, and we would either go and dig the big hole that all the trash goes in, or cover it up with dirt when it's done. And so I spent 5 years traveling the Midwest building landfills, and they don't build landfills by cities. So I was oftentimes by myself or alone. And so out in the middle of nowhere, and this happened to me while I was at work one day. I was a superintendent, so I'm in my truck watching the guys, making sure they're being productive. And on lunchtime, I would eat my food real fast and then take a nap for a little while. And so one day in the summer, I was in my truck, and I'm just closing my eyes and sort of dozing off. And I close my eyes, and then I just open them. And when I open my eyes, I see these blue silhouettes that were humanoid. They were much larger, but these blue silhouettes of light. And two were phasing through the engine block. One was in the seat next to me. One was outside the door. Another one was behind me. And once again, I didn't realize that these were extraterrestrials. They were blue silhouettes of light. I don't even know if I believed. I had an idea that the ETs are real, but I didn't know that that's what this was. I was just what. I thought
you felt like you were dreaming.
What's going on?
Yeah, I thought it was a strange dream, right? So I'm like, well, what is this? And then they all put their hands on me. They reached through the glass into the window, and they touched me, and I felt this weird sensation in my body, followed by the sound, wub 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 wub. And as I'm hearing this noise, I'm seeing myself go up this at the time, once again, I don't understand what's going on. I see myself going up this blue tube of light, and above me, I see this large floating city is what I thought it was at the time. And so I go up this tube, and then I'm there, and the blue beings, they connect to me. And it was it's like they shot a beam of light out of themselves to me, and then it put me in a bubble. And then from there, I felt like this, it was like someone turned the volume up on my life, because everything got brighter. Every sensation was stronger, and I didn't understand it. And then they started communicating to me. And when I say communication, it was nonverbal. It wasn't words like we're using. They showed me images and visions, and then somehow I just knew what they meant. And so,
so it's a state of a remembering, would you say?
Well, yeah. So it's, they called it cellular telepathy, because I was like, what is this? And so basically it's your DNA's ability to communicate through your clair senses. And so it was clair vision and clair cognition, where I was seeing a thing and I knew what it meant. But so they were communicating that way. And they explained that humans have a low bandwidth. We use words where it's and they're explaining that a word is, a picture's 1,000 words, a movie's 1,000,000. So they're just speaking a lot faster when it comes to the download speed. And so in these first experiences, they brought me into what seemed like an arena, and there was like different platforms, and they connected to me, and they showed me they connected to me, and then they showed me like, you know, with your intention and your breath, push down with your hands, and I did, and like then I floated up, and I was like, okay, now I'm floating. And then they were like, float yourself across these platforms. It was like that TV show, American Ninja Warrior Challenge, where you have to like that's what it reminded me of at the time. So I float across the platforms, and they're like, yay! They're all excited that I did it, and then boom, I wake up and I'm back in the truck. I'm like, what's this dream? And then so this happened sequentially over the next couple of months, where it wasn't every night. I would have regular dreams, and then it always happened back in the truck. Like I'm in my truck again, and then this happens where boom, I'm in the space again. And what was very strange was each time I would go up there, where it ended last time is where it would begin the next time. So it was almost like a seamless event.
Yes.
And then each time there was a progressive, I didn't realize it was training. I thought it was like, oh, what a weird, this weird thing. But then the next time it was like, they created a golden cube that connected to the cube. And then I lifted the cube up, and then like moved the cube across the platform. So then I did that, and then they're excited, and then back in the truck. And then the next time it's like, okay, now float yourself and the cube, and now move yourself and the cube across the platform.
Gotcha.
And so I didn't realize that it was like an exercise program where it was a progressive learning how to move more. And so this went on for some months. And then eventually at a certain point, it went from passive, where it's like a dream and happening to me and I'm the observer, to happening. I would be meditating. And then in my meditational state, I would close my eyes and boom, I'm in this space again. And so now it's like active, where I can participate.
Right.
And at that point, it went from I'm in a strange floating city with blue light beings, where like everything came into view, where I'm like, this is obviously a spaceship, and these are the extraterrestrials, because they had large heads, eyes, and they were much taller, and they were like working with these different technologies and things on the ship. And I'm just like, what is going on here? And then at that point, they continued to communicate to me more. They were still training me. They were showing me that the ship is actually a sentient consciousness, and it's alive, and they communicate to it through it telepathically, the same way they communicate with me and to each other. The ship is alive too. And so that
in itself is a remarkable thing to learn, that the ship is sentient. Like that in itself is literally something that can blow your mind.
Absolutely, because there is no like driving it like a car. Like they just communicate to it, and it moves through time and space, and it was just a crazy thing to understand. Wow. And it was also malleable, how it can change. It can shift into different things that they need to, which was really, really mind-blowing. But so they showed me how to communicate with the ship, how it works, how to use it, how to use different technologies on the ship. And then at around this time, they told me, okay, well, you're ready now. I'm like, ready for what?
Ready for what? What are we doing?
And it was like, why am I here? I'm a human, and this is an alien spaceship. Like, what is going on with this?
Yeah.
And so basically, they explained to me that before I came here to this earth, that I made a contract, and I chose to be a part of this program. And the program is to help humanity awaken and be ready for these contact experiences, because Earth is going through this tremendous shift and change, and that's what they're here for. And basically, and I didn't realize either, I'm a human. Why am I here for this? They explained to me that I see myself as that, but when I'm here, they see me as one of them. And I learned that later as a facilitator, when a few people were like, hey, did you know that when we're up there, you look like them, not like you? And I was like, oh no, I didn't realize that. But so basically that they explained to me that my soul has incarnated over and over and over as an Arcturian, and that I've always done this with them, and that now I'm here on Earth and we're doing it this time.
So, Jerome, what would you say through the guidance of these amazing beings? What would you say is one of the things that humanity is either, and I hate to even use this word, struggling, or not conscious and aware of what they're creating for themselves? What is one thing that you could give to our audience to allow them to step into those higher states of awareness, to where they could possibly, if they choose to, have this elevated connection with these higher beings?
So something that's happening, and this is a two-part answer. So something that's happening right now is with this whole disclosure movement and all these different things that are coming out with the extraterrestrials. They make it very clear that disclosure isn't going to be a bunch of big ships coming down that causes mass hysteria. that disclosure is happening on an individual level for people that are ready, that have been doing the conscious work, because what it takes to connect to these beings is not having fear. And there's this big propaganda in the movie industry to make scary movies about extraterrestrials. Then you're afraid of them. If you're afraid of them, the doorway is shut, because these beings, don't get me wrong, there are malicious ETs, and that's a whole nother story. But these beings, they are higher dimensional, which means they are non-physical, and they only operate in the 5th dimension and up. And so in order to access them, you have to have an open heart, and you need to, so unconditional love and learning the heart resonance. And this is why that whole Merkaba thing was important, because these things operate from the heart, and humans are the only species on the planet that have the ability to actively, at will, shift from duality consciousness in the 3D to unity consciousness in the 5D. And so the ability to open your heart and go within and then project yourself. And this is what Yeshua and the Ascended Masters were teaching about go to the doorway within. The kingdom of heaven is within. It has to do with the heart, right? And so and this is why they connect through the heart. And even when they connect to me, it's heart to heart, because the heart is the telepathic channel, and this is how this frequency works. And so part of it is being open to it, and then not being afraid, because these beings operate through the law of one. And what the law of one states is that they will not manipulate or coerce or create a scenario that you did not ask for. And so either consciously or unconsciously asking for this. And I also had this contract, so I was ready for it, because it seemed like it happened to me, not a thing I chose, even though I chose it before. I remember.
And that's the hard part. We've chosen this, and we forget. Right?
That is what it takes. And so the other thing that it takes, and those who I've facilitated these experiences for understand this, but there is a part of ourselves that needs to be healed. And this is called the inner child shadow. And so basically what happens is, from the ages of 1 through 15, when we go through experiences that are emotionally intelligent, or we're not emotionally intelligent or mature enough to handle adult situations, those situations fracture our consciousness. And then those fractures or soul fragments, they break the antenna that allows us to receive the signal that gives us access to these multidimensional abilities. And the best way I like to describe this is, in the child's movie Peter Pan is chasing his shadow. And then once he gets that shadow thick, then he gets his happy thought and off to Neverland. And so this is the same concept. We need to put together those fractals, which open up our expansion and unchain us. The trauma are the chains that keep your consciousness locked in this lower dimension. And you don't get access to these higher dimensional states until you've done that. And the reason is because you're not allowed to go into the 5th dimension and higher with that trauma, because it's like a dirty lens where you're looking through a lens of distortion. And that lens needs to be clear, because what you do in these realms, you co-create in real time. And so if you open that lens, you've got no place in being there. And so I talk about it like TSA, like you have to go through the TSA and you remove all the contraband before you can go up into these spaces.
So what I'm hearing, Jerome, is that, we've all contracted to have these different experiences, and for you to really connect, to get these awarenesses, to get these telepathic messages, to really shift your own frequency, is through connecting with your body through the heart. And we've been told to connect is only through the mind, through the ego, through 3D. So for you to really have a transformation within your own life would be to do the one thing that you haven't done, and that's connect to the heart, because that is the one piece of technology that will you can communicate through with so many different aspects and dimensions and frequencies and intelligence, when you've done the one thing that you hadn't been taught to.
Correct. And the reason for that is that in order to connect these beings, what you need to learn how to do is access altered states of consciousness. And what I mean by that is accessing an altered state. We do this every day when we fall asleep. The act of falling asleep, you're going for, even right now, when we're having this conversation, we are in alpha and beta brainwave states, right? That's 80 or 90 hertz. You need to learn how to shift your brainwave states on command for as long as you need to, from alpha and beta into theta. Theta is where you are in the dream state, right? Typically this happens to us every night, but we fall asleep and we don't remember. To be able to shift into that and then hold that state for as long as you need to, that is the doorway, because that is how you're able to even connect, right? And so the altered states are important, and then the development of the light body, because if your light body is atrophied, and this is what we talk about teaching in Light Body Bootcamp, is your light body is responsible for your ability to move and journey. And so part of that is growing that, because the ability to move, the ability to see, the ability to create the relationship with your higher self, that all creates an energetic, it requires an energetic charge. Think of your light body as your cell phone. You want the battery to be full. If the battery's not full, you don't get to use, you don't get to stream, you don't get to download, you don't get to, message your friends. All of those abilities are off, right? And most of humanity is operating on 2%, or only gets their battery to 2%, and they're wondering why the phone doesn't work, or wondering why they can't send messages. And this is why most people are having psychic phenomena that seems like phenomena, where it happens on its own, or it's once in a while, instead of being able to actively control it. And so this is what they teach, is how to access these things, how to develop yourself, and how to grow and build from that. Because a lot of people don't realize that your purpose requires you to have the tools to achieve it, right? I say all the time that your abilities are the tools to help you achieve your purpose. Well, guess what? If you don't have your hammer and nails yet, you might not realize you're a carpenter. Or if you don't have the wires and the snips, you might not realize you're an electrician. And a lot of people that are in the industry or in the field, there's people that, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm a healer. Well, you think you're that because you only have access to that part of yourself. Once you realize what else you have, you'll realize that those are just pieces. That's like having a finger on a hand. You have much more. You just don't realize it yet. And so this is, their message is that through this development and through, the Light Body Bootcamp teaches so much, but really having this direct contact with these beings is one of the fastest ways to development, because what it takes to journey and what it takes to connect with them, it forces a shift. So it's not an experience that happens to you when you're actively playing this role and you're receiving the telepathic communication. What you don't realize is that is upgrading your energetic system to where what it takes to do that over and over and over, then you bring that home with you. Now that ability is there, that pathway, those energetic circuits are connected. And so this development happens very quick.
But how does someone know they're genuinely expanding their light body and their consciousness versus simply convincing themselves that they are? Like what kind of proof, or what kind of
what shows up,
acknowledgement, what happens that they know, okay, this was a genuine experience, as opposed to something I'm just inventing in my head?
Yeah, so there, when done properly, there are active changes that are undeniable. Once again, so all of this that I'm talking about is metaphysical science, and in science, there's an if-then statement. If we do this, then this happens. I'm not talking about an imaginary game where I'm seeing myself inside of a spaceship and there's a being in front of me. So there needs to be a direct result. And so when it comes to these techniques where we are connecting our energetics to these different stations and we are pulling in frequencies, there's a result. There's a shift in the body. There's a change.
Yes.
When the Merkaba comes online, you'll feel and see the fractals spinning around you. When it's done right, you'll feel an inflow of energy into yourself where you feel charged. And then after that charging, you develop the ability to start moving, or your consciousness being able to project. And so different things happen. You start receiving psychic information that you don't know where it came from out of nowhere. It's like, why all of a sudden can I do this? It's because your light body and your DNA is an antenna. And so you start to receive.
Yes. You know what was so interesting and so fun when we worked together just last week. So like when we started to do the activation, and I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm in my work chair, and it's kind of bouncy. I can leave, but man, when you started to connect with me, I know you had to see it, dude. I'm sitting here and I'm going, and there was nothing I could possibly do to lift. The body was, it was just like the energy was literally pushing me back in my chair. And it was one of the most profound things, because you can feel it, you can sense it. There's nothing, being, you're talking to me, but my whole body is being activated in a way through presence, through the heart. And this is a new sensation for, for people to experience that. And, I would definitely suggest any and all who is
Yes.
listening to go be a part of this community, to connect with you, and just without any, expectation, just to allow yourself that moment, that 15-20 minutes, to have an experience through the heart, and just see what shows up for you.
And
Yeah.
that's what it really comes down to is a lot of the stuff is experiential, and talking about it doesn't do it the justice, because
No.
we're using human words, and I try to
Right.
talk about things like technology and circuitry and these different things to help the left brain make sense of what's happening.
Process it.
But a
Right.
lot of stuff energetically is something that you feel, and when I say feel, even though we're in the physical body, when you bring your consciousness in these other spaces, there are things that happen where you're receiving full visions, and these things are
Yes.
so detailed. Where it's some people might think like, "Am I making this up?" It's really hard to make up like when something is showing you like a very specific thing. Like the mind isn't typically capable of making up full scenes or like
Yes.
downloads of information, and so the way that it comes in is very special. And there's also experiences where so multidimensional is we're in our physical body, right? The meat suit is part of that. We are occupying the first 3 dimensions in the physical body. When we travel out, we're starting in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions.
Yes.
We go in these astral, and so a piece of you is stationed there, but you're still aware of your physical body. But your consciousness will start perceiving from this other fractal where the images are coming in and you're receiving them. And it's like, wow, this thing's happening. But what's also awesome is when they are giving you downloads, or if they're doing healing work on you, or they reach inside of you to deliver something, you still feel that in your physical.
And you cannot describe, like you say, world, like the words that we use, the language we use cannot describe the feeling of the energetic exchange that they give you. And you can't make it's something that your mind can't comprehend until it happens. And that was the one thing that I took away from that was the energetic exchange was absolutely incredible. And while I had my experience with Jerome, my laptop was on my knees and my whole body was vibrating. The laptop was going like that. I'm like, holy heck.
Let me put my energy seatbelt on my computer.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jerome's trying to communicate with me in the laptop. It wasn't a good plan. I recommend you don't have your laptop on your knees when you have an experience with Jerome.
Well, that's just amazing. Well, Sharon, are you ready to play our favorite game?
Baby. Bring it on.
Well, all right, Jerome, we have now shifted into the segment called Shift or Shit. So we're going to toss out some questions to you, and you answer if it's a shift. Yes, that's expensive. Yes, we're having it. Or if it's total shit. No, that's a program that is lack mindset, poverty mindset. And yeah, are you ready?
I'm ready.
To play. All right. All right. Sharon, would you like to go first?
Sure. The body knows something is present before the mind does. Shit or shift?
That is shift. So the body, and this is where the intuition comes into. So a lot of people confuse the intuition with the higher self, but they're actually two separate parts of us. So the intuition actually comes from the gut and your microbiome. And so your body, when you walk into a room and you feel like there's danger, or you feel something, or there's something happening where there's a body resonance, that is actually, they call the gut the second mind. And it's because the fauna flora have the ability to sense and detect things. And so that is your intuition coming into play. And the difference between the intuition and the higher self is the intuition is reactive. So it happens like real time. It's reacting to energetic stimuli, whereas the higher self is proactive. And when you develop that relationship, the higher self will communicate with you and give you future stuff that isn't happening real time.
Okay. Awesome. All right, Jerome. Coincidences don't exist. Shit or shift?
That is shift, because coincidences, they don't exist. Everything happens for a reason, and it's the universe bringing things into your life through either synchronicities. This is where, when someone says, "Oh, that's a coincidence," or "Oh, I was worried about something. I'm driving to the hospital and I'm worried because my friend just is in the ambulance, and as I'm driving, I keep seeing the number 444 on the license plate, which means that they're going to be okay or protected." And this is where seeing synchronicities, or you can call them omens, is another word for them. But when you're driving, or you're going through your day, and you're thinking about something, and you see a sign, or you see this red cardinal out of nowhere, different things like that show up, that's the universe talking to you. And
everything's communicating with you.
Yes.
Everything through
yes.
your higher self. And those symbols, once you learn to recognize them, they're very powerful tools. And this is where I encourage people to learn about angel numbers, and to learn about these different signs and symbols, because the sign and symbol itself doesn't matter until you have reference. And this is where I try to tell people, seeing the numbers all the time means nothing if you don't know what the numbers mean and what you're relating them to. And how that is it's not about seeing the number. It's about, what was I thinking about, or what was I saying while I saw that, because that is a direct reference to what you're going through. See, if you're just seeing it blankly, why am I seeing that? It has no context. But if you're driving there and you're worried about your friend, and you keep seeing these signs like that's like 444, or these different things that are show you like they're safe, they're protected, this, that, and the other, that is then a direct relation in how those signs and synchronicities play a role.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So much. So much goes on after you have contact. And after you have contact, regular life, like your everyday 3D life, just doesn't seem to fit. Shit or shift?
That is shift, because what we are used to operating in this dense, polarized world, where we just are programmed to wake up and go to work and go through this mechanical monotony. But we were never meant to work at banks, or be work at the drive-through, or these different things. That was never our purpose. And so once you start your consciousness awakening through that process, eventually you'll discover your purpose, because this is what happens once we start learning these different abilities. Like, oh, all of a sudden I can heal people, or, well, I can help people heal, is the way I like to say it. I can do this, or I can do that. When these things come online, you start to realize, hey, there's more to me. There's something special. I say special, but these are just our normal God-given abilities and stuff. But people think it's special because
it's not commonplace.
Right.
Not everyone can do it. But when these things come online, it draws in a higher calling, right? So once you develop different abilities and skills, you're like, wow, I can do this. And what it comes down to is, when these abilities come online, we are being called into sacred service. And so this is your highest heroic timeline, is to be in service of humanity. And whether you're using your abilities to heal, to even mediums, they're doing it because there's a message that someone needs to receive from a loved one that will help them in their healing process, right? And so this is where these different tools can be enriching. And if you're using them to serve others, this is the highest vibration of that. Some people want to develop abilities that way they can get over on others, or try to use them to, in greed or
manipulate.
Right? So that is serving self, and the other is serving others. And that's the difference between, people don't understand what magic is. Magic is just expressing your consciousness into reality to create a tangible shift. And so when you're using whatever psychic faculties you have to control others, to manipulate, to break the will of somebody else, that is what we would consider black magic. When you're using your ability to serve, to enrich, to help people heal, to help them move through certain processes, that is what we would consider white magic. So I like to say that people don't understand what that is. You don't have to dress in a robe and do this whole thing for that. You can just, with your energy field, create these things. But that's what it comes down to, is being in a role of sacred service is the highest vibration you can be in, as a healer, as a psychic, as or whatever.
All right, Jerome, I got my final question. All right. Fear blocks more spiritual growth than the lack of knowledge. Shit or shift?
Well, I think they go hand in hand, because a lot of the fear comes from unconscious lack of knowledge, right? So people fear what they don't know and don't understand. And so I think that yes, fear will block your blessings because you're not opening the doorway to those blessings or to contact or to these different things that can greatly enrich your life. And so I believe that they go hand in hand. And then the first part of it was the lack of, what was it? The lack of understanding.
Lack of knowledge
Yeah,
over fear. So
lack of
yeah, I
knowledge.
think you answered it right. I mean, like you hit it right out on the nail because the lack of knowledge does bring the fear in. So yeah, getting the
There,
awareness. And how do you how does one retain or be able to get the knowledge or the wisdom? And would you say that to be able to listen and being in the present moment is where the shift is?
Absolutely. And so this is where, through my own direct experience, you can read every book about extraterrestrials. You can read every
Right.
book about healing. You can read all the stuff that somebody else put out there. But a lot of the people putting them out there are humans that received it from the divine or from a teacher.
Mhm.
That was their download, and things get distorted. And something about abilities is, and this isn't meant to talk down about any system or modality, but something like Reiki. Reiki was given to somebody as that's your gift or your ability. Then they took it, they translated it, and it's like now it's the system or modality. But that is one person's best way to heal. Other people are using it because they can, and it's something teachable. But other people, there's a better way for them to help others heal. And so this is where some of these things, they can be tools, but they help you discover other things within yourself. And so what I'll say is a lot of these things are great because they open doors and they get us going. But the greatest thing that you can do is receive from within, from your higher self.
Yes.
Actually,
Yes.
and then the higher self is the compass that helps you navigate things. Even when you're working with your guides, whether they're ETs, angels, these different ascended masters, your higher self is the filter. So when something presents something to you, you run it through that filter to make sure, is this free of distortion? Is this for me? And so when I first started, I didn't have the knowledge base that I have now. This was built over time and experience of understanding what was happening. When I first came in, these experiences were just happening to me. And then I was able to help others do them, where I could bring people up into the ships or do all these awesome things, but I didn't understand it. I was just doing it. I didn't understand the history, the physics, how it works. I was just applying. Physics. And so, in the beginning, we're sort of, once again, there's not a lot of places that teach all of this, especially the way that I teach it, where it's very holistic. People are teaching one piece of a thing, another piece of a thing, and it's like there's a bunch of missing pieces. And so when it comes down to it, a lot of people are just searching and seeking, but I ask you to learn how to seek and search from within, because that's where the gold is, instead of just trying to adopt other people's things, because other people's things aren't necessarily fit for you. And so these are signposts, but really all the signs are trying to point to the higher self within, because that's where you can receive this guidance.
Okay. So I have one last question for you, Jerome. Everybody has the same experience. They experience the other side in exactly the same way. Shit or shift?
Shit, because the experience is based on your perception. This is where, based on your programming and what makes you feel safe, is what controls your reality. I'll give you an example. Even with the work that I do, even when we say, I'm going to bring you into a light ship where you're going to experience extraterrestrials, right? For those people that are star seeds or feel that connection to them, that's what happens. I have had a person, though, that was like, I want to do this, but I'm terrified of extraterrestrials. And I had trauma. I was abducted. I don't really think I want to do that. And I said, well, here, are you open to having an experience to see what happens? They were like, yes. So instead of going into a light ship where there was extraterrestrials, I was like, here, I'm gonna take you through the process, and your consciousness will keep you safe. It will arrange things in a way that makes it feel good. And this is where it's like a skin or a flavor where it can be dressed up in a way that makes it feel good. So, when I first started doing this, there was this girl that was like, hey, I'm scared of this, that, and the other. I'm like, well, let me show you what it's like, right? And so instead of going into a light ship, I just let my higher self lead and follow. And basically it took her into the heart. And then there was like a path that went down to a pond, and there was a bench there. She sat at the bench. And when she sat at the bench, then this crystal, the water turned into this crystal wand, that when she picked up the wand and she waved the wand, 10,000 angels swooped down and grabbed her with the feathers and pulled her up into this city made of light, where then they began to talk to her, dispense information, gifts, and abilities. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like ET's bringing you up into a spaceship, but you had to see it as 10,000 angels bringing you into a city of light, because that's what felt good. And so,
yes,
presented in a way that she was comfortable with, so that it didn't overwhelm her.
Correct. Well, and that's where, on these light ships, for me, it was always primarily extraterrestrials, because that is what my soul resonates with, and that's how it came to me. But you wouldn't believe, I do this week in and week out, and you wouldn't believe that. Well, it's specifically me, raised as a Christian. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to the church, you pray. I don't really feel anything from that. I don't know if I believe in Jesus and Mary and these different things, because I never had an experience. It wasn't until going up in the light ships, where up there sometimes 9 times out of 10 this week at least, Yeshua and Mother Mary were up there with ETs, with angels, and that's how I realized, wow, that's real. And so, based on what people are connected to, these higher dimensional beings, because those beings were always galactic to begin with, and understanding that these things, they shift and change your perception on things.
For sure, Jerome. Before we wrap this up, in a very short sentence, what is one thing that, if you could share with the audience, what is one sentence or a few sentences that you could share with the audience that would help them grow or step into their power?
Connect with your heart. Start looking within. Everyone's always worried about your third eye chakra. Forget about the third eye. Open your heart, because your heart is what leads you, and your heart is the entrance to the kingdom within. All the inner realms are accessible there. Everything happens to the heart. You'll never access those places with your third eye. And so get in touch with your heart, learn how to connect to your higher self. And all of that is taught in the Light Body Bootcamp. And then learn to get that inner guidance, right? Everyone is searching for an answer externally. They go to all these teachers that feed them BS or don't actually give them the way, or they gatekeep. And you can get all of that from yourself, from connecting with your higher self. And so I recommend everybody on their path, whether you're a healer, whether you're a psychic, whatever, to develop that connection with your higher self, because that will steer you in the right direction always. That is your internal compass.
Well, Jerome, I know I can speak for both Sharon and I. Thank you so much for joining us today and for challenging us to ask bigger questions about who we are and what's even possible, for us, whether someone agrees with everything we discussed or not. Hearing these ideas for the first time, one thing's for certain: growth begins with curiosity.
It definitely does.
Yeah, it does. And maybe today's biggest takeaway isn't that you have to believe everything that you've heard. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to ask better questions. And that's a core teaching of yours. Stay open, ask questions, remain in the question, and just allow what comes in. Thank you so much, Jerome, for being here today. We really appreciated our time with you.
Thank you, Bethany.
You're amazing. Thank you so much, buddy.
Bye for now.
Bye. Oh, wow. Sharon, I mean, just being in his field, you can sense it, feel it. He has had, and he is the energy, the frequency, the vibration of higher intelligence. And, I think I can speak for both of us, all of our audiences, and all the clips, the reels that we'll produce from this. If you come in contact with this, connect with Jerome, because I'm going to tell you what,
amazing experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And you know what, Sharon, we'd love to hear from everyone. What was their holy shiftball moment today in this conversation? What challenged your thinking, the most? And share it in the comments.
Yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Holy Shiftballs. Share it with someone who loves exploring consciousness and human potential. And you can join us in 2 weeks for another conversation with a gentleman by the name of Christian Struthers. He's a motivational speaker with a doozy of a story, and it's all about healing, resilience, and overcoming adversity. And because of that experience, he's now he's dedicated to showing the world how you can become your best you, and it's possible. And it all starts within. So it's the theme of going within continues on, and it's wonderful.
Well, isn't it interesting that we come here to have a human experience and to know thyself? And what better way to know thyself than to feel it all, right, girl?
Exactly. Yep.
Hey, go ahead.
Nope.
What were you going to
No, that's it.
Well, guess what, Sharon? Remember, when life kicks you in the balls, be sure to tune in to your Holy Shiftball podcast.
Where we help you turn that shit into a shift.
See you
See you
in
in 2
2 weeks.
weeks.